Vibe coding apps can make gorgeous n8n front ends. They're fast, they're simple, and it's easy to love how they look. But there's a security flaw built into how they handle your n8n workflows, and you won't know it until it's too late. Imagine setting up a client's workflow connecting all their accounts, and then waking up to find someone on the internet got access to their workflows and spammed up a hefty bill. Today I'm showing you 3 enterprise grade tools that eliminate this risk completely. They're free, they take 10 minutes to set up, and they will help you and your clients to sleep at night. This is how you build front ends that don't just look professional, they actually are professional. This is how you build more client trust, drive more referrals, and land bigger deals. Let's go. By the end of this video, you're going to have everything that you need to make a website exactly like this for your company that allows your clients to log in and trigger the workflows that you built for them when uploading a PDF or another image that they're going to process, such as an invoice or a receipt. So you'll be able to, I'll show you what it'll look like. We'll go to test@test.com as our username, and then our password. Will log in, and you'll see then here that we have the option to select a workflow and then drag and drop files in here that will trigger a receipt processing workflow in n8n. So in order to do that, the first step that you're going to do, we're going to walk through it as if I was doing it completely from scratch. So first I would come over to automationhackers.net. I would create a new account. I already created mine, so I'm logged in. And then I would come here to n8n workflows. And I would scroll until I found the workflow that is n8n secured front end, and I would download it. So now that we have that downloading over here, we're going to open up our zip file, and then we're going to click on this vercel.html. And that's going to open a screen that looks like this in our browser. And then we're just going to click on this button right here, deploy, and it's going to walk us through the process without touching a single line of code to getting a landing page, to getting a website and app, just like the one that we showed earlier. So this may prompt you to create a GitHub account as well if you don't have one. So you can create that, and then you can name your private repository, whatever is easiest for you to remember. I'll call it front end, and then we'll create. Once that's done, it's going to have a little box that pops up right here that's going to be add integrations, which is Supabase. And Supabase is just it's an industry standard for Postgres development, a database. And this is what is going to handle our authentication. So you will probably have to create an account if you don't have one. But so create one if you don't, and then click add here. And then it's going to do all the work for us. Install integration. Then it's going to create a project name. We're just going to leave it as a default, and we're going to create project. Once that's done, we're going to come down here and add environment variables. And you're going to have, there's only going to be one. It's going to be next public company name. And this environment variable is the one that you see, is the one that will set the name of the company that shows up in the menu bar, and then up here as the title up here. So we're just going to call this Automate, and you call it whatever your company name is, and it will show up in the menu. So then we're going to just do deploy here. And then it's going to go through all the steps and processes to deploy this project for us on Vercel. It'll take probably about 50 seconds or so. Then once it's deployed, you're going to see a little preview window right here. We're going to come down here to continue to dashboard, and then you'll see that your domain, it gives you a random domain here. And if you need to hook up your own domain, then you can do so. There are instructions online that will help you do that for Vercel. But we're just going to keep it like this for the sake of this video, and we're just going to click on this, and you'll see now that you have your own version of that website that we showed earlier with your own branding. In this case, we just put Automate, but it will be your company name here. And what has happened here is it's set up a Supabase instance. It's set up Vercel, both free. They have very generous free tiers using Next.js. So now, in order for us to sign in, we're going to come down here. We're going to click Start Automating. It's going to take us to the sign-in page. Now, one of the biggest advantages from a security standpoint with this project is that there is no place on this website where somebody can sign up for an account, which means that we have complete control over who is able to access whatever workflows we create here or we give access to on this website, which is a huge security benefit, because imagine if anybody could sign up for your app and they could access your client's workflows. So in order to allow somebody access to our website, we need to come over here to Supabase. You'll see here that there's only one project. Now we're going to refresh this and you'll see the project that was created when we deployed the project. So right here, we're going to click on this and we're going to come over to Authentication and we're going to add user, we're going to create user, and we're just going to do test@test.com and then just whatever password you want to put in. And then we're going to do auto confirm user, which means that it won't send an email. It won't have a double opt-in. It'll just create the user right here. So we're going to create this. And now what that did is it created a user on our website. So now we can come here to test@test.com. Then we can enter the password and log in. And now we're logged in as that user. So again, we maintain the control of who can access this website. Now you see right here, there are no workflows configured. Please add workflow configuration to your environment variables. Now this is the second place where there's an extreme measure of safety that we're taking, which means that we're not only are we going to restrict who can access the app, we're also going to restrict just in case somebody got access to our webhook URL, we're going to make it so that not just anybody can access it. We're going to give a bearer token or essentially a password that we're going to store privately on this app that is going to prevent anybody else from accessing our webhook. So in order to do this, we are going to come back to our Vercel dashboard. We're going to go to settings. Then we're going to come down here to environment variables, and we need to create a few new environment variables. But before we do that, we're going to set up the workflow in n8n so that we can have some of these values to put into these environment variables. So let's go back over to n8n. We're going to do create workflow, and then we're going to upload or import from file, and we're going to do the workflow.json from the folder that we downloaded from automationhackers.net earlier in this video. And we'll open it. And this is a fully functioning receipt or invoice processing workflow that will upload all the line items up to a Google Sheet. And now we need to configure this webhook so that when we upload files to this little website that we have here, that it goes through here and performs the workflow. So in order to do that, first we need to make sure that we have a bearer token. We're going to use a hexadecimal string. So I'm just going to use a random hex generator. We're going to do a length of 25. It's going to generate one. And we got to make sure that there are no spaces between any of the characters. So we're going to generate hex string. Here it is. So we're going to copy this. We're going to go back to our workflow and we're going to paste it in place right here. And once we have that, we're going to copy this full line. Make sure there's a space between bearer and the hexadecimal string that we just created. So you copy it, you'll come into the webhook, and now what we need to do is create a new credential. We need to make sure that the HTTP method is post and that the authentication is header auth. Then we're going to come and we're going to create new credential. And it's important right here that the name is authorization spelled correctly, obviously. And then we're going to paste that bearer space hexadecimal string that we created. And then we're going to just name it something that we can remember. We'll do YouTube example in this case. And then we're going to hit save. So that's the first piece of information that we're going to need to take with us over to Vercel is this little hexadecimal string. So let's copy just the string, not the bearer token. And we're going to come back over here to Vercel, and we are going to put this value in here. And now we're going to have a naming convention for these environment variables. We're going to have workflow _1 _bearer _token. Now, you may be asking, what if I want to add multiple workflows? You can do that. You'll follow the same convention. It'll just be workflow _2 _bearer _token, and the bearer token for that workflow, and on 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Make sure everything is the same except for the number. So now we're going to add another one, which is workflow webhook URL. Now for this example, we are just going to use the test URL. So we're going to come back to our workflow and we're going to copy the test URL from this webhook and we're going to paste it right in here. And then we have a few other values that we're going to add to make sure that we are keeping track of the webhooks that we are invoking. And those are going to be next public workflow name and then next public workflow description. And again, if you want to add multiple workflows to this project, then you just need to change 1 to 2 in all of these cases for every single webhook. So each workflow is going to require these 4 environment variables. And so if you want to create another one, you'd create 4 more environment variables and you just change from 1 to 2. So now we're going to save this. And when we save those new environment variables, you're going to have a little pop-up that shows up here in Vercel, and we need to do a redeploy so those environment variables are activated. So we'll redeploy, and this will take, again, probably about 50 seconds for it to deploy. And then once that's deployed, we're going to see a drop-down menu appear here with the name and the description of the workflow that we just added through the environment variables. And again, those environment variables are securely stored so no one can access them, because just because we prevent somebody from accessing our app here doesn't mean that somebody couldn't somehow get their hands on our webhook URL and still use it outside of the app. So that's the point of using the environment variables for the webhook URL, and then more importantly, or even on top of that, the bearer token that is essentially a password. And since it's hidden, we're the only ones that know how to use. We're the only ones that know what it is, and this app knows what it is as well. So the users can successfully access the workflows without having hackers or somebody else access the workflows. Okay, so that should be ready. The deployment is done. We're going to refresh. And there you go. There's the drop down. So now we'll see receipt processing automatically process and categorize receipt images. So we'll click on that, and then this little file uploader becomes available to us. So now we're going to click on this, and we're just going to upload a little receipt. So I'll open that. Now before we run this, we have to make sure that we open the webhook, or we tell the webhook to start listening. So we're going to come back here, and we're going to listen for test event. And then we're going to upload the file. Now you'll see that we successfully uploaded 1 file to receipt processing, and we'll go back to our n8n workflow, and we'll see that it successfully went through. And now we have the file right here that we uploaded through this little interface, and we did it securely without hardly any risk of it getting exposed to people that we don't want it to be exposed to. So now we're going to just finish this workflow. We'll execute this code, which renames the file so that this Mistral code, or this Mistral node, knows what to do with it. So now we'll execute this step. It's going to run for data, the data binary, and then we get out some markdown. And now we're going to run this AI agent, which is going to process that markdown that Mistral gave back to us. And we're going to see over here in this sheet, this is the end, this is the destination sheet. Where all this information is going to go right here in this node. Once this agent is done, we're going to split it out. We're going to split all the items out, and then we're going to append each of those items to the row in the sheet. So now we'll run the split out, and now we'll run this Google Sheets append row and sheet. And once that's done, we should see those items appear up here in this sheet, which we do. So essentially what we did is, as a recap, we built this app in 10 minutes or less, probably 5 minutes total. And then we added our environment variables, which securely store the password essentially for our workflow. And then we can access it here, and we can upload a file which engages some backend code that sends that file securely over to our n8n workflow here, and then processes our file for us and uploads all of those line items from that receipt here into our Google Sheet securely and in a controlled manner where we know who accesses it. So this is the way that you want to do it. When you go through vibe coding apps, it's much more difficult to control the authorization, and it's much more difficult, especially if you don't know how to code, to control to secure the webhook URL and to secure the bearer token. So this way you're able to pitch with much more confidence to clients that their information is going to be secure. And where this really comes in is when you're using API tokens that cost money, because if somebody got access to this webhook, they could just spam it and really charge a big bill on the API usage, which would ultimately come to your client, and then it would come back to you. So it's really, really vital that you follow the best practices for security. And now it's really easy for file uploads. You can create this app, and it will work securely for you. So go over to automationhackers.net and download those assets that we used today. And you can follow this exact same process and be up and running with an n8n front end within probably 10 to 20 minutes. We'll see you in the next one.